As an instructor, I'm a role model to help students become the best versions of themselves. I encourage them to see the potential that I see in them. Our graduates have depth and insight into what it takes to provide safe, competent, and compassionate care.
I chose the U of C because of the school's strong academic reputation and because of the Faculty of Nursing's emphasis on the importance of learning the theory behind the practice.
As an alum of UCalgary Nursing, I had the advantages of studying at a research-intensive university combined with the closeness of a smaller faculty. Our clinical instructors are really closely tied to the practice setting, so you're getting the most current clinical knowledge. So the theory you learn in class supports your nursing practice. My career has been full of great opportunities, and a huge part of that is based on the solid foundation I had at the University of Calgary.
All right, so it looks like it's 9:04 now, so I guess we'll get started. So we've only got an hour with you all today. So thank you for joining us at UCalgary for the incoming class of nursing students. This event is basically set up to give the incoming students a glimpse of what being a University of Calgary student is like. In the past, these events we used to focus on, we'd have lots of like the faculty and talk about registration, but what students really wanted to do is hear from current nursing students about what is it really like to be a student. So we've really changed this event so that you guys can listen to current nursing students and find out what that's all about. So my name is, I guess I should introduce myself. My name is Erin Hatching. I am a program specialist and admissions officer for the Faculty of Nursing. I've also got with me Lindy Ephraim. Lindy, if you want to say hi. Lindy's going to be helping us with the chat today. She's our main student advisor. If you've had questions, you'll probably, and you've emailed us, you've probably talked to Lindy. And then we have Riley. She is a current nursing student that we have, I believe, just finishing term 6. Is that right, Riley? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So 1 year left.
Yes, ma'am.
We have Megan, and I believe, Megan, are you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, good.
I'm finishing term 8.
That's right. So yeah, Megan is done, right? Is that right? Yeah. So just finished. Last day was yesterday. We have Dorsa here. Dorsa, I hadn't seen that she'd come in yet, so hopefully she will join us. And we have Lauren as well. And Lauren, you also just finished your term 6, right? So you're third year, so going into 4th year. So we have students that definitely have lots of experience in the faculty so far that we're going to hear from. So also to let you know, this is being recorded. So just so you're aware of that, we record it for students that aren't able to come to this session so they can watch it at another time. So that's why we're recording. And also, if you have questions, save them for the end. So we'll write them down as we go and we'll put them in the chat, and we'll definitely make sure we have time for all your questions at the end, but we might answer them as we go along. So put those questions in the chat at the end. And hopefully everything technology-wise is working here. If not, also put that in the chat and let us know, because yeah, I do these every once in a while, but sometimes tech stuff goes wrong. So let me know if you can't hear or see something. So we'll get right into it here. And one question that we have is what is the first year like, and what are notable things that happened in your first year of the program? So I am going to start with Riley, if you want to tell us about your fun experiences in year one.
So yes, with kinesiology, you do that for your entire first year, and part of that is you have your lectures, and then Megan will elaborate on the cadaver labs. But during my second term in my first year, Carol Croker, she is a cardiac specialist. She does research at the Foothills campus, and she invited a couple of students to her lab where they had a full-grown potbelly pig, and everything was very humane. The pig was anesthetized and everything. Once the pig did die, all departments had a say in research. It was, I know some of my classmates weren't very fond of the idea, but we got to go in. She would, the pig was open so you could see the heart and the lungs. You could hold the heart and lungs. You could feel what the heart actually felt like and how strong the muscle was. But the main takeaway is that she would block one of the coronary arteries, and you would give the heart a heart attack. And you would see the muscle itself, it would turn purple, and then it would turn blue, and then it would start to turn black. And then she would reopen the vein and let blood flow back through. But you could see how fast a heart attack actually affects the heart muscle itself. And it was, it was a very interesting experience. She let us go in, hold the heart, feel it beating, feel the lungs move and how extremely soft they are. It was very surreal. It was very awesome experience for first year.
That's great. That one, that comes up every year. I think it's a highlight for a lot of students, and definitely quite literally hands-on learning there. Megan, you want to tell us about cadaver labs and options?
Yeah, so as Riley said before, you take, I can't talk today, you take kinesiology all through first year, so in the first term and second term. And it's kind of nice to meet there's a lot of nursing students in kinesiology because it's required for us to take it. But you also meet lots of other students in different fields, so lots of people in kinesiology, lots of people taking it just for fun. So you get to meet lots of people. And then in your labs, I don't know quite how they're run now with COVID, but I assume they're fairly similar. But you meet lots of different people there. And the cadaver labs, it sounds kind of morbid, kind of scary. It's not. You get used to it. And it's really, I found it very kind of instrumental in my learning, because when you look in a textbook, all the body parts are kind of color coded. You know what everything looks like. They're always in the same spot. But in a human body, they're not. Everything is, especially in cadavers, is kind of pink or gray. Nothing's color coded. You don't know where anything is. And then for each different body, they're in different spots. Usually around the same spot, but their blood vessels are in different areas, or their bronchioles are in different areas, and you got to figure out what you're actually looking at. So when you kind of have that foundation and then you start working with actual live people, it's easier to say, oh, this is what I think is going on, or I think this is what I'm looking at, instead of just kind of like guessing because you saw it in a textbook. And in terms of taking options, you do have lots of options your first year for nursing. So take classes in your interest. It doesn't have to have anything to do with nursing. They recommend you take a science option. I did not. I took architecture. So I was the only nursing student in that class. But I found it very interesting, and it was something that I didn't decide to take any further, but I still have with me, and I still enjoyed it. So take options that you're interested in, and then you'll take that knowledge into nursing. Whether it helps you or not doesn't really matter, but if you find it interesting, it's good to go into.
Thanks, Megan. And that's definitely another question we get a lot from incoming students is what are the options I should take, and which are the best ones that are going to help me with nursing? And what we tell them is that your year one is the only time that you get options. The rest of it is 100% nursing curriculum. So if there's something you're really interested in, this is your year to have some fun and take some really different classes that have nothing to do with nursing that you think you're going to enjoy. So definitely a great point there, Megan. And I don't know, Dorsa, I don't know what happened. We lost her here, but yeah. I know she was in our transfer route, and so her year one, she did actually outside of the faculty. And then her first year in the faculty was last year, and COVID shut things down. So that was interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about that in an upcoming slide here, and what school's been like during the pandemic here. So we'll go to Lauren. Lauren, tell us a little bit about your first year.
I definitely agree with Megan. First year is the year to take some options that you won't have a chance to take when you're a part of nursing. Year one, you're definitely in more general courses, so kinesiology, statistics, things like that. You're not actually in the faculty itself as much. So for that reason, I would definitely recommend, if you have time or interest, kind of looking out and seeing what just clubs there are part of nursing. I was a part of the year one nursing council, YONC, and that was a really valuable part of my first year experience. It allowed me to run events for first year students. We had study groups, we did volunteer opportunities, or we just had little mixers where we got to know other students within the faculty, which was neat because we didn't get to bump into each other a ton other than all being in the same kinesiology class. So yeah, I would definitely recommend seeing what's out there. The first year is very general, so I would definitely recommend trying to get yourself into some kind of nursing group because there are a lot of options. It's just knowing where to look is important.
Thanks, Lauren. And that's another thing that comes up a lot is YONC, which is a really fun sounding acronym. But YONC for the year one people is great because, again, you're spread out all over the university that first year. So you don't necessarily have that same sense of, being part of the faculty. But when you attend the YONC events, then that kind of really brings people in. And again, the kinesiology, that's where you find all your other nursing students too. And yeah, I think that even last year when we were online, YONC is still alive and well. So definitely get involved because they do a lot of fun activities. Probably less pizza last year, but yeah. All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what were things like before and after COVID and kind of how that's changed things up. So Riley, if you want to get us started there.
Yeah, before COVID happened, so I did my first year and my first term of my second year and I guess I got partway through term 4 too, before everything shut down. But I spent a lot of time on campus. I think I was there almost every single day with, your you might have one class one day, but 2 classes. Especially in my first year, I did not do what Lauren did, and I didn't really get involved within the nursing faculty. So the friends that I did make were in kinesiology, but they actually were kinesiology students. So I spent a lot more time with them, and I didn't really know anyone going into my second year, which was slightly uncomfortable. But, you can take away from that what you will. But I did spend a lot of time on campus with friends, whether it was getting something to eat or going to the library, TFDL, to study, or going to like their little, I can't even remember what they're called, the little study rooms that you can sign out for. Oh, I can't even remember now. Or just going to the gym with friends. It made it so much easier just to stay focused on your schoolwork, and it made it seem manageable. Whereas when COVID took over, everything was moved home. I found it very, very difficult at first just to find a rhythm. because, you weren't forced to wake up an hour and a half early to get ready and drive to the campus and walk across campus. Like, you weren't awake when class started, you were waking up. Shouldn't say that, but I found it very hard to stay on task. And eventually I did find what worked for me, and that was I had to create an entirely separate space. I turned my spare bedroom into an office. I kept all schoolwork out of my bedroom because it just made me sleepy, and I started associating my bed to studying. And, I found hobbies, things that really helped me unwind, and taking that time for myself to sit down and paint or do some yoga, anything that helps you just step out of that moment, because schooling online can take over your life, I felt, for that 1 year. So yeah, I definitely liked it much better on campus when I could hang out with friends. We did try to do our best with Zoom, and studying together with Zoom open, so you can still kind of talk and get each other's ideas and bounce them off each other, but it was difficult. I won't lie. I'm fairly certain September is going to be in person from everything I've seen. So I hope that's what's happening for you guys.
We'll have more information on that next there, but yeah, hopefully. Megan.
So yeah, about the same for me for first year. First year, because you're in a lot of different classes, you're in options. I didn't take the time to actually make sure my schedule looked nice, and I didn't have like a class here and a class there. So I had a schedule all over the place in the first year. And then second year through fourth year, second through fourth year, you kind of have all of the nursing classes are 3 hours long. Which throws a lot of people off, I think, because all of your other classes are an hour long. But you get used to it. They have a break in between, so it's usually kind of like an hour or 2 hours in. It's usually an hour and a half in. You have a break. And for nursing, we used to, online it's been 9 o'clock start, but it's usually on campus, it was I don't know, for some people. For ours, it was always the 8 o'clock start, 8 to 11, and then you'd have an hour break, and then 8 to 11, and then ours were 2 to 5. And then you usually have from, I think term 3, you only have 1 day off campus, and then a half day, which ours was on campus, for kind of the off-campus practice. And then after term 3, so term 4, 5, 6, and 7, ours was 2 days off campus practice. So whether that's in long-term care, hospital, clinic, wherever you are, you're usually there for 2 days. And then term 8 is pretty much all clinical hours. So you're paired with a nurse, that is your preceptor, and you spend all of your time pretty much with them and kind of figuring out how to be a nurse. So, and then for COVID wise, not much for me really changed. I was in the end of term 6. So when we moved online, none of the classes had kind of been online before. So ours are they started at 9. They were kind of a summarized version of what we were doing before. They're not like that now, but that's what we had. And then it was like, read the slides. But they did a really good job of transferring that to online. And I think it's much better set up now than it was when COVID first happened. So.
Thanks, Megan. And yeah, I think nursing faculty had a little more on campus, well, after when we were allowed, than a lot of other faculties, because there's so much that really truly needs to be hands-on. You can't do it all. And obviously clinical, yeah, you can't. They did some online, amazingly, for certain terms, but yeah, it still was very hands-on. Lauren.
Yeah, so as Megan was saying, your typical day really depends what term you're in. Some terms you'll have 1 practicum day and a half practicum day. And then in term 6, which I just finished now, we had 2 full practicum days per week. So yeah, pre-COVID, I engaged in lots of study groups. I love learning as a team. I'm definitely very team oriented. So I love that. And post-COVID, obviously that couldn't happen as much, or if I was engaged in study groups, they were more online over Zoom. So it still worked well, I found. It wasn't too awful. Yeah, post-COVID, there's definitely benefits and drawbacks of the online learning, the virtual classes. It definitely is easy for it to take over your life. So I recommend what Riley says, separating your work and your school, having a good balance between what gives you some space and what makes you feel like you're you versus learning and studying and continuing to work hard and stay motivated. Yeah, clinical days are very busy, so I would definitely recommend getting lots of rest before, staying well hydrated. It gets busy on the floor and it's hard to take care of yourself some days. So yeah, just take care of yourself. That's really important, what I would recommend, because you can only be as strong of a nurse as you allow yourself to be by taking care of yourself. Yeah.
Thanks, Lauren. So come on here. So the official statement from the university, because this, I know this question everybody has, is will school be online in February? And I cannot officially tell you either way at this point, but this is our official statement that says University of Calgary is working on options to determine the final format of the fall term. We expect to have an update by the beginning of June. Originally they were saying April, but now they're saying June because likely because of what is happening. You look at the news right now, things are getting a little crazy again. But the goal is to provide a safe and supportive University of Calgary experience that meets the health guidelines. So you'll be assured to be getting excellent quality education when you begin your program in September. And we recognize plans might need to adapt, and you can expect further updates via email on the fall term as soon as they become available. So we don't know. Everyone is very, very hopeful that it will be in person in the fall. There's a lot of talk, I can tell you, behind the scenes on, ways that they can do it in a mixed fashion if need be, or but we are hopeful, but they just can't, they don't want to make a decision still this early. So that's all we know about that, unfortunately, right now, and can't tell you quite yet if we're online or in person. So June. All right, so what do our current students wish they knew before they started at the University of Calgary? And we'll start with Riley again.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, wasn't letting me unmute. Yes, I was accepted into this program in August for the following September. It was very quick for me. I didn't know a whole lot coming in. So the one thing I wish I did know was that clinicals don't actually start until your second year. And I should probably put a little bit of context in here. My first choice was MRU's nursing program, where they mix everything all throughout. But what USC did, and what I didn't understand and frustrated me in my first year, was that they choose to do all of your general education courses within those first years. So all those options you can take. And I think it was Megan who was talking about how she took architecture. I took Southeast Asian studies, and she has like there's a lot from that I still hang on to and can actually apply into my nursing practice. But yeah, it was really nice. Like in hindsight, I really appreciate U of C doing that. You still get to take your kinesiology courses. You still have your lectures 3 times a week. You get your lab once a week, your cadaver lab once a week. And you still get to feel that kind of medical aspect of everything. But I was kind of expecting your clinical groups and having that close-knit part of the faculty feeling right away. And I spent the first year a little bit frustrated with the program because I didn't understand that, but I really do appreciate it because my friends that are in the MRU program are, second year, third year doing courses that have nothing to do with like their clinical groups. So when you have group projects, everyone kind of the excuse of, oh, I have an economy exam or economics exam tomorrow, that's why I didn't finish this super important project for my actual degree. That frustration is eliminated within the first year. And I am very grateful for that, because I think I would have been struggling very hard if I had to do statistics in my third year. That wouldn't have gone over well for me. So yes, just know that I don't know if they're changing that, if that's a changing thing, or if they're keeping it. But I do appreciate that U of C did it that way, and that I didn't have to worry about my general education courses when I am focusing on becoming a nurse and what that actually means going out into a hospital setting or a public health position. I really do, yeah, appreciate that now.
Thanks, Riley. Megan.
Coming into nursing, it would have been nice. I did know that clinicals didn't start until second year, but there's lots of people that didn't. But it would have been nice to know going into second year what the nursing courses are actually like, because you don't really know anything about them. Term 3 is more kind of community general health. I remember a lot about hypertension, but it's kind of out in the community, and kind of the building blocks for kind of therapeutic relationships, how you actually talk to patients, how you deal with patients, how you kind of look at community health. So if you don't have access to kind of to proper healthcare, or to good food, or to like safe environments, how that's going to impact your health, and how if you do have all those things, it's going to improve your health. So kind of looking at the community stuff in term 4, looking at kind of age across health across the age spectrum, and then kind of year 3 being like all of your kind of intense, heavy nursing stuff. It would have been nice to kind of have kind of more of a breakdown and know a little bit more about the classes before you, or the terms themselves, before you kind of jump into those. And also about the NCLEX. The NCLEX is the licensing exam to get your RN license, because you can't actually work until you can finish your degree and you can graduate from the university, but you have to pass the licensing exam to work, because if not, then you're not a registered nurse, you're just a nurse, and you can't work like that. So I wish I knew kind of a little bit more about the exam and kind of the registration process and what actually goes into that before starting nursing.
Thanks, Megan. Lauren.
Yeah, I definitely wish I knew about some of the more resources that are available, because there's tons, there's a lot. The UNS has some really great resources. They will have job postings, different jobs that come up for you as a student nurse, depending on what term you're in. They have different clubs and meetings and groups you can be a part of. So there are tons of resources for you that's available. I wish I knew that more, because yeah, it's definitely easy to, as Riley said, feel as different terms change, your friends groups change, and it's easy to feel like you're on the outside sometimes, but there's tons of groups, tons of clubs you can be a part of. Yeah, the UNS is a really great resource. I definitely recommend it.
So next we're going to go into what some of the most memorable experiences are so far for our students. So Riley, get us started again.
Yeah, mine by far at this point is my first Code 66. It was during my 5th term and maybe 3 or 4 weeks in. That being said, that is the first term I was ever in a hospital setting. So I'm already, I don't want to say kind of useless, but I don't know much of anything. I can do my assessments, I can do vitals. At that point, you know, you could empty a couple of drains or do a dressing change, but you know, at that point, we're not allowed to touch IVs. We can't give IV medications. And my first Code 66 showed up, and my primary nurse we were notified that there would be a transfer coming in from a rural setting with a suspected upper GI bleed. And my primary said that they were stable, and all I had to do was transfer them into the room and do your vital signs, your assessment vital signs. I figured I could do that. I've done it, half a dozen times already. And the paramedics, I was getting the room ready with a nursing assistant, and the paramedics showed up. And, we're not quite ready to transfer him into the bed. And it's one of those rooms that has 4 beds. So there's already 3 other patients in the room. And so I chose, I'm not also at this point wasn't the greatest at taking a report from someone else or asking the appropriate questions on everything we needed. And I chose to talk with the patient, and everything was fine until suddenly his face went blank. And then the monitor, the paramedics had his blood pressure dropped to 50s on 30s. His heart rate went up to the 200s, and he just started vomiting frank red blood. It was so surreal. I definitely looked like a deer in the headlights. I was looking to the paramedics for help. I was looking around for my primary nurse because she was on her break. And out of nowhere, she just popped up and she's like, take a breath. It's okay. Go call a code. So I ran to the nursing station, told the charge what I saw, came back, and, I was gone maybe 40 seconds. And already the room was alive. All the other patients, the 3 other patients in the room, their curtains have all been closed to give, this patient privacy. They had already transferred him to the bed. There was 4 other nurses from that hub in that room. They started, I think they had 4 IVs in that patient. They had 2 in his arms, 1 in each arm, and then 2 in his foot. And they were just pumping him full of fluids because he kept losing blood. And they were obviously concerned of hypovolemic shock. And it was about 5 minutes before the code team actually made it up there. But when they did, the communication, you talk about it in lecture a lot about closed loop communication where, a doctor gives an order, you have to repeat it back verbatim so that they know you heard correctly, and just how real that was. Everyone understood their roles. Everyone identified what they were doing. Their communication was so clear, so clean. And this patient, they were able to stabilize him and get him to, I think it was CT. Maybe they just gave him an ultrasound. I wasn't sure, but they did all of that within about 45 minutes. And, the patient, he was fine. Actually, he had the surgery that they suspected he might need. And, he walked out of the hospital a couple of weeks later. But it was just, you hear a lot in theory, especially about emergency situations, but you don't always get the opportunity to see it right away and to see how precise it was. And it was one of those things where what you read in the textbook actually applied. And, of course, that's because it was saving a man's life, but it was a very memorable, obvious experience that I think I will always keep with me, just as a good reference whenever I'm, in my primary nurse's position where she had to lead all of that until the charge team or the code team made it to them. Yeah, that was my first experience.
Thanks, Riley. You definitely, you don't get that in an arts degree. I hope not. I think you'd be quite prepared. Megan.
For me, I didn't have any one experience that was as memorable as Riley's there. But for me, it's kind of those experiences where you feel like you're talking to patients, or you feel like you've actually connected with them and you're helping them. Kind of in long-term care, when we had the same clients every week, which was very nice for us. So we had kind of that stability, and you build relationships with your clients. So when you can talk to them and kind of figure out a little bit about their story and their lives, and you can, you're with the same people all the time for all those weeks. So helping someone with their breakfast. I had one lady who was very particular about her breakfast, and if you could do it right, she was very thankful. So when you can do things like that, or in the hospital when you can, pre-COVID, when family would come in and you can sit down and talk to the family and figure out what's going to happen when the patient goes home. when like figuring out that part, what are their worries, what are their concerns, and how can you actually address those types of things. And then last term, or this term in term 8, I was in a community clinic. So when patients are in hospital, it's kind of something has gone usually wrong. They're in hospital, they're very, like, this isn't their real life in hospital. That's not hopefully their everyday life. When you're in a clinic and community, that's their everyday life. They deal with these problems all the time. They have chronic conditions. You're trying to kind of, how can they manage at home, even if the problem's never going to be solved? So if you can kind of connect with them and figure out even small things that are going to help them, it's the benefit, you feel like you've achieved something when you are able to do that.
Good. Thanks, Megan. And I believe we have Dorsa here now, just to mix up on time. So Dorsa, do you want to talk about your experiences?
Yes, hi. For everyone who doesn't know who I am, let me introduce myself. My name is Dorsa Zamanpour. Thanks for letting me speak. I'm a little bit late here, had some technical difficulties, but thanks for having me. I'll just hop in. So I'm a nursing student going into my 4th year. And yeah, so one of my most memorable experiences so far, I had said, is working with my clinical group in my very first year. And so I think that it was so special for me because it's it's such unfamiliar terrain in your first year. And with your first ever clinical group, it's 7 or 8 people, and you really get to support each other, and you're all kind of in the same boat. And it's a strange year. It's not a super hard year, but it's still it's nice to have 7 or 8 people that you get to know and you get to do things with. And I don't know what I would have done without them. And so that's what I said as my most memorable experience, even though it wasn't one specific one. I think I could list I think I remember every single activity I had done with them. So I think you're all going to really enjoy your first clinical group as well. And I think it's the one that you will always remember down to graduation. So that's what I would say.
Good, thank you. Lauren.
Yeah, there's way too many to even start to list. I'll kind of touch on a few highlights. I really enjoyed the Kairos blanket exercise we did in term 4. That was a neat opportunity to get together as our whole cohort of nurses. And we talked about just some of the history and the health challenges faced by the Indigenous peoples of Canada. Getting my first stethoscope, that was always a big day. Everyone gets so excited about it. You pick it out and wait for it to arrive, and then it shows up on the faculty and you get to pick it up, and that was always a fun day. Yeah, first day in hospital clinical in term 5, that was really exciting. I was on unit 71 at the Rocky View. That's a cardiology unit. And it was cool because it was during COVID. And so we got a lot of other patients that weren't necessarily cardiology patients. Like I had a postpartum mom who had some complications, and it was neat. Her husband would bring their newborn baby in, and I would do patient teaching on feeding and pumping, and that was not what I was expecting to do in a cardiology unit, but it was a really cool experience. Yep, seeing my first code, that was another memorable one that you don't ever forget. And overall, you just make such great friends. It's crazy how close you become with your clinical group after spending just a few weeks with them. You go through so many different experiences together. You see so many different things. You debrief so many situations. And yeah, overall, you just get super close with the people you're in your group with.
Good. Thanks, Lauren. Yeah, there's definitely lots of camaraderie in this faculty. Like I've never seen in other faculties. It's pretty amazing. And the support everyone has for each other, including the faculty for the students and vice versa. So Okay. So what is your advice to this new group of incoming students? We'll start with Riley again.
Pardon me. I would very much listen to Lauren. I did not get involved with very many UNS functions or Yonk functions, which I think would have made that made you feel closer to the faculty and make those make friends with those nursing students, so that you have them throughout the years. That being said, I'm still very close with everyone from my first clinical group. You know, we still go for walks, or I've actually been in the same clinical group 3 times with one girl from my very first clinical group. But anyways, doing those UNS functions, knowing not only does it give you a gateway to all these other students who will feel the same way as you, it also opens up resources that I didn't really know were available to me in my first year. You know, pretty much everything just Lauren said, I strongly advise that. Also, I didn't do a whole lot of readings for my first year courses, because you could kind of just you could read the footnotes and be fine with it. But when you actually start your nursing courses in your second year, I find the textbook really, it just elaborates on all of the topics you'll be discussing in class, and finding a way that works best for you to either read read through the whole chapter or skim it, highlight what you think is important information. Being able to do that and get in the habit of that will really help you for your classes and your exams, because as you will figure out, NCLEX questions are always what is most right. You won't necessarily get a whole bunch, like 3 wrong answers and 1 right one. You'll get 3 right answers, but which is the most right answer. So being able to, you know, just beef up your learning experience with your textbooks and being able to do it in an orderly fashion, because it will feel overwhelming. That'll be super helpful, whatever technique works best for you. And definitely make time for whatever your stress relief techniques are. If it's yoga, if it's going to the gym, if it's, you know, having a dinner with your family or your friends, whatever it may be, sitting down painting, figure out, make sure that you have an allotted time for that. Otherwise, your whole world will just become school and you'll feel burnt out pretty fast. So being able to take that, you know, a couple hours a week to just sit down, focus on you, what makes you feel good and what makes you feel proud of who you are, it's super important, I think. Yes.
Thanks, Riley. And I'm going to skip to Lauren and mix things up, because I know Lauren has to go. She's got, I think, a job to go to.
I actually have a job giving COVID vaccines right now. So that's another cool thing that nursing has allowed me to do, is have some really cool jobs that I've loved, more than just kind of your standard retail jobs. So it's been awesome. But anyways, advice for oncoming students would definitely be, it's okay not to know what you want to do in nursing exactly. I feel like in a way that's almost better. When I came into nursing, all I wanted to do was labor and delivery. I had my focus so locked on that. And now I've been on so many different units, had so many different experiences. And now I don't know what I want to do. I'm kind of back to a blank page. I could do anything at this point. There's so many different things that interest me. So I would say don't get locked on anything right off the bat. Open yourself up to different possibilities, because you may surprise yourself and not know what you like until you experience it. I would also say don't stress yourself out trying to memorize things word for word. I think you'll find that out quickly in nursing. It's definitely more about understanding the bigger concepts, understanding how different things tie together, how your pharmacology ties with your pathophysiology, different things like that. Less about memorizing word for word definitions from the textbook. Also, term 5 and term 6 can get a little bit challenging. There's a bit of a steep learning curve. It was hard right off the bat, but it gets easier. It really does. And it's definitely a good time to connect with your peers to make study groups. I found that a really valuable resource. So yeah, it's important to stick by your friends going through that. Don't isolate yourself when you're finding things to be hard or challenging. Reach out to a support system. And yeah, don't ever hesitate to contact your profs. With my biased opinion, I kind of think nursing has the best profs. They're all so awesome, and they're kind, and they're great resources for you to use even as references for future jobs. So it's great to have a good relationship with your profs.
Yes, we definitely have a very, very amazing faculty. I would agree. Megan.
I think for me, like terms, year one is it's not that hard. I feel like when you going through school, like when you go from grade 11 to 12, it's kind of like a grade harder than grade 12 is what I found. Like it wasn't like overwhelmingly difficult. So you don't really have to, I don't know, for me, I didn't really have to adapt that much to first year. Second year, when you're in your when you're in your nursing classes, it is a little bit more difficult second year. Term 4, there's definitely much more content I found. And then term 5 and 6, so year 3, it's a lot. It's a lot of content. It's all of your pathophysiology, which is what's wrong with people, and all of your pharmacology, which is your medications to fix those things. So it's a lot of content. It's a lot of things to understand and to kind of work through. So I found what worked best for me was kind of finishing things weekly. I had my classes both on the same day, so pathophysiology and then pharmacology. So I handwrite all of my notes, which is the least efficient way to do anything. But I can't remember it if I type it or if I make notes on the slides. It doesn't work for me, so I handwrite everything. So that was a lot of work. That was 4 hours to write out each lecture. So for me, what worked best was doing the classes, taking as many notes as I could on what wasn't on the slides. So writing down like the thinking processes, or what happens if this happens, then like these are the next steps. And then for me, writing out the lectures after, but doing that within the week. So if I had my classes on Thursday, having it done by the next Thursday, because if you let it pile up, that's a lot of things to go through, a lot of notes to make, a lot of things to study for the exam. So if you can do it week by week, then you don't feel so overwhelmed. There's still a lot to do, but you don't feel so overwhelmed when it comes to the exam, and you have 4 weeks or 6 weeks worth of content that you now have to know. I also go through all of the syllabuses, or I don't know if that's right, plural, for all of my classes, and then kind of write out a list of all of my due dates for everything on one list. So you're not like surprised that you have a paper due or a group project or something. You kind of see it coming. Whether or not you prepare for it is questionable for me, but at least you're not surprised by it. And again, as Lauren said, just reaching out to your professors for help. They're great. They all know, like, you have different professors for different things, but if you really had a good relationship with your term 3 professor for whatever class, you can always go back and ask them questions later in your different terms. Term 5 and 6, those professors really know what they're talking about. They know what they're teaching. So if you have any questions, if you just want to clarify something or you don't quite understand something, send them an email and just say, hey, this is whatever your name is from this class that you're in. Let them know who you are. And just say, I don't understand this concept, or could you clarify this? Or I just need some support. I did really poorly on one exam, and it's like saying, you can go to the reviews. I don't find the reviews very helpful because I still don't understand why I got them wrong. But just going to your professors and saying like, hey, I didn't get this. Can you help me with this? and they're usually pretty good at kind of helping you out, giving you study tips or explaining the concept. So.
Good. Thanks, Megan. Yeah, definitely always ask for help. And Dorsa.
Thank you. I would agree with what everyone said. It's some really, really good advice. The advice that I would give seems a little strange, but you guys will understand once you're in the program for about a year or two, is that it goes really fast. And at first it doesn't seem that way. And after you know it, 2-3 years has blown by and you say, oh, I thought I was just in term 3 yesterday. And that's what it feels like for me. And so I would say just enjoy it. It's going to end faster than you think. I always say we always seem to look for happiness on the horizon. Like, oh, once I get my nursing degree, then I'm going to live my life and all these things. But life is happening right now. And all of you guys that are here, you're going to do great. So make sure you don't forget that as you pursue your nursing degree. Make sure you keep a balanced life. Don't stop doing the other things that you enjoy. Obviously, your schedule is going to change. You're going to have less time to do the other things. Your priorities are going to shift as you incorporate kind of this new thing into your life and make time for it. But definitely just make sure that you don't forget to still do the things that you enjoy and keep a balanced life. Also, the yoga scrub pants pill after a while, so make sure you buy 2 pairs when it comes to clinical. If you guys have clinical in term 4, hopefully COVID is kind of cleared up enough by that. Well, yeah, no, you guys will have, hopefully. So get 2 pairs of yoga scrub pants. And yeah, I can't wait to meet all of you guys in the fall. I'll be your SU faculty rep. And if you guys have any questions, anything at all, any support, I will always be here. So I can't wait to meet all of you.
Thanks. Trouble getting unmuted there. Thanks, Dorsa. I'm just going to talk really quick about some admission stuff. You're going to get an admissions package, anyone that's been admitted in June. So a lot of people are asking, like, what is all the stuff I need to do before I start? We'll send that out to you in June. So there's a whole bunch of forms you get to fill out and immunizations and all this great stuff. So watch your email, that will be sent out. We'll also send you a student handbook, which also has all sorts of great information. And then also just a reminder, when you register for classes, you're going to create a University of Calgary email. Probably a lot of you you may have already created your UCalgary email. Make sure you check that, because that is where all of this information is going to be sent. So